also very, very excited to invite two incredibly talented architects who have recently turned authors. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning we have the august presence of architect Gurjit Singh Matharoo of Mat-Haroo Associates and architect Vagish Naganur of Design Ground. And they will in fact be sharing their insights from their book.
Yeah, so there's another selfish reason with Lucio. He's also written a beautiful foreword for our book, and it's because of Shraddha that Vagish, me, and Lucio are together today, who are part of the book. So thank you for it. I've been watching her for last 12 years grow, and the events have become better and better, and they're getting marvelous by the day. So congrats to the FOAID team. Coming to the book, so what was happening was people used to ask strange questions to us. For example, our friends, peers, students, that Gurjit, how do you get clients like that? Some eternal questions. Or is your pool, which is our office, is it part of a swimming pool? Is it part of a club? Or do you have a club in your office? Things like that. Or why do interns make shivlings in your office? So these questions remain unanswered. And then came the COVID, and we were isolated, only connected through phone calls. What happened was, during this time, there were phone calls of death and despair coming from all the places, and we sat together over a phone, far away in distance, and we said, suppose we don't live this pandemic, will these questions remain unanswered? And Vagish said, no, wait, let's put them down and at least answer the questions. You don't know what will happen. So we had the time of COVID, more or less free for ourselves. So we started jotting down these incidents. And this episodic work is what we see here. Full of double meaning.
In fact, the whole book was done using technology, but in a very different manner. We both are very bad at typing, and with our fat thumbs, we managed to type whatever on the mobile. The whole book was written on toilet texting. We are good at toilet texting, actually. So we used to get this whole line of, edited text, and that became our story. And then that was put onto the computer and then edited later. That was one level of technology in a very different manner. Other was, whole book was edited on phone call, on WhatsApp phone call, actually. So we never hardly met, hardly 2-3 times we met, that's all, I think. Not even 2-3 times. Everything was done on phone call, actually. That is the beauty of that.
Yeah, so finally, because we were writing these stories which were getting tad too much into our personal lives, we had an umpire, Dilshad. Unfortunately, she could not make it today. And she would correct us that you are crossing the limits here. So please, So we had this third umpire. And then finally we had Trisha from our office who would edit the entire stories maybe and put some sanity into the mayhem that we were causing. So finally the book was ready, and it was sent to, during, besides these two, there are lots of other people who we have credited, but I'm sure we have missed out a few of them. And the family takes the brunt. So my architect wife and my children, teenage children, of course, and because we had these loud reading sessions in the morning with Vagish and Dilshad, so they had to bear the brunt of it. Then Besides that, the book is dedicated to my father. We lost him a few months back. And he was the structural engineer. And as Vagish has spent to Papaji, who burdened Ji enough so that his legs won't tremble. So that was the learning from him. And yeah, and then we had the book. So we wrote to some publishers saying that would we be interested in, and we got answers. Some said, we don't do architecture books. Others said, we do only architecture books. So this wouldn't fit anywhere. And then we had V. Raghunathan, professor, who wrote the foreword for it, the non-architectural one. And finally, he tried to put things together to make it understood. And that's where we are. Yeah. Maybe Vagish can shed more light on it.
Yeah. So the cover says the witness to Matharoo. The witness in this case, it's me. And you can call it, he's a criminal or an act doer or a misadventure. And since I witnessed many of them, I am a witness to that actually. So don't corner me too much, but I am still a witness to that. So that's one part. And other thing is called Sutradhar. Basically, he wanted somebody to tell the story. So he cannot tell his own story. I need to come and game maker of the whole story. So it became a Sutradhar. So I am both Sutradhar and a witness in this case. So journey started way back when I was an intern actually. So that's when I know him since almost...
Not even an intern,
yeah,
on a phone call.
On a phone call. Before intern, just before intern you can say. So 1994. And I was walking by, and then he had a phone call, and then there must have been some client who must be some Don or some powerful guy, and he must be cornering him.
This was the school phone.
Yeah, it was a school
public
phone. There was not even a mobile phone in those days, so he must have been in distress. Instead of intern applying for a job into architect, here architect said, "Hey intern, come join my office." That was the way, So that time G was not a capital G, he was a small g in italics actually. So those were the days. So that's where we journey started. After that, when I joined, I was like an innocent intern, maybe in second, third semester. So I saw this house with certain prayer room and some normal house requirements of living room, and that prayer room didn't allow anything to the building, it was just lying there somewhere else. I thought like with innocent, my own academic jargon, I said, oh, does it align to some cardinal parameters or some divine axis? So client being a Don, Gurjit said at that time, no, it is trying to remind him that the journey that is going to take might not be reaching where the divine is reaching. That's what he said. So I remember that's the first witty answer I faced in his office actually.
Yeah, well, his answer was, not sure whether they will reach God or not, you definitely would reach God.
Because of the Don as a client actually. So that is some of the early, witty exchanges. And I found it very interesting that there is a wit in his organization, whether it is at a talk level or at a metaphorically connecting the program and the personality of the client like that. Another incident happened like that. There was a resort that we were doing, and then a river ended on the river bank, and then river has its own laws about keeping it away from that. But intent was to keep the building on the river or close to the river, as close as possible. I said, with this bylaws, how can you keep it near the thing? He said, laws say that building cannot be near the river. But nobody said that river cannot come to the building. So I said, wow, then how will you do it? Next day I saw the client had taken a mining license. He blasted off quite a few of the land, and then he brought the water near the building. That's the level way of witty play that Gurjit does, and I was in love with that actually.
No, there was a client who agreed, and we could blast it off and use that material to build the building.
Yeah. That was there actually. So it always had a practical purpose to convince actually. So this is how we started. Then this kind of association and work started overlapping, and many such anecdotes started adding. But how to put the wit into a story? So there was much more than happening. So we put together a lot of stories like that. Sure?
Maybe
one sample story. So just as a quick experience of the book so that it all instigates you to buy the book, which can be addictive also sometimes. So title itself is quite interesting. It's very sultry. Sleazy, or not sultry, sleazy it is. It's called Who Slept in His Bed? Don't imagine things. He's a nice person. Okay. Who slept in his bed? Okay. Once upon a time, G was young, single and lived happily. Very loaded sentence.
My wife is here. So
He has dared to write it. One fine day, he had an unexpected visitor, expected to live with G, at least temporarily, if not forever, as decided by both their families. Those were the days when G was being shunted out of his rented accommodations every 11 months, as beyond 1 year the laws of would turn slightly in favor of the tenant. You all know that in Bombay, rental acts and all, you all experience it.
yeah, they would throw me out after every 11 months, so I had to find a new place.
Yeah.
So,
He had to shift 7 homes trying to find a foothold in his beloved city of Abad, till he settled in his own. He was in his 3rd rented place when the unexpected visitor knocked on the door, bringing up the suspense. The living room in the apartment had been converted into a makeshift studio with 2 large drafting tables tucked in the corners. I used to work in that office, actually. I was privileged to be part of at this stage of G's career, working as intern along with the draft person, D-Man. We named him as D-Man. The only other room was small and almost fully occupied by the self-designed double bed with a storage box underneath, which he had carried from one rented apartment to another. The solitary window from his bedroom opened into the corridor outside, so it remained perpetually closed. Over time, the ceiling was slowly getting covered with cobwebs. Many of you can realize this. Over time, the ceiling was slowly covered with cobwebs. In the cozy bedroom, one could see the whites of the plaster disappearing into the thick shades of grey. It's only a matter of few months. Why bother cleaning? G would reason, looking up at it. He's good at reasoning, actually, that why clean it if I'm shifting in another few months? Leave it at that. Maybe he was also eco-friendly in this sense. Environmental friendly, you can call it. This is where he could take his short nap after lunch, which we all ate together. While D-Man and I would head back to the tables to work. So he would sleep in that room. Me and the D-Man would work on the drafting.
I mean, they were not working. Yeah, you can imagine, but yeah.
Very envious that somebody is sleeping. G once rode off for a meeting somewhere far, only to find himself back in the home studio, wondering if he had somewhere to go. We kept imagining what turns he must have taken subconsciously that brought him back to the same place where he started. And it turns out that it was only 6th sense only. As when he returned, the main door was ajar, and the D-Man and I were missing in action. In the turn of events, we were found sound asleep on the only bed that was available, while spiders continued to spin right above. We thought he had left, and me and D-Man took a short nap, but he just came back like that. And for that was one of the best conclusions in his life he ever took, which is very diligently following. As they say, people who stay in glass houses should not throw stones at others. He had no choice but keep mum. He stayed calm. In his calmness, however, there was a firm resolve. Never mix his house and studio again. Otherwise, you might find your employee sleeping in the bedroom. Such was the setting in which arrived the unexpected visitor. To say that G was happy with this family decision may not be entirely true. However, G wasn't entirely droopy either. Wait, there was a bait in it. The visitor with benefits came along with priciest thing everyone could afford in this beloved city of Abad. So there was a catch in why Gurjit was really, fine with the visitor that was going to join, and he was going to sleep in the same bed actually. We'll come to that. His maternal uncle, a devout Sikh, was an ex-army and still possessed an army canteen card. G would maximize the benefits by balancing a crate of beer on the tank of his bullet, well honed during the Digvijay Singh days, while simultaneously tolerating.
So I think for people who are not from, who are outside Gujarat.
Yeah, you should elaborate.
We have prohibition, and you're not allowed to consume or buy liquor. But there is no bar for people from the army. So, since this uncle was an ex-army, he was a perennial source of liquor for the house. So that was the bait.
That's why G could tolerate that uncle actually. In this, there is a mention of another Digvijay days. Actually, he was a client who was also from army background.
Yeah, who used to pay me in crates of beer.
He never paid him money, he paid him crates of beer only. Needless to say, his place, well-known skill, Digvijay. While simultaneously tolerating freshly brewed Sardar jokes from uncle in the pavilion. Needless to say, his place became a sought after hangout. For G, when the uncle wasn't around, and for uncle when G wasn't around. They kept using the room for partying, but they hardly met each other. G would use it when uncle was not there, and uncle used to use it, G was not there. Both partied with the same bunch of craters. This negotiated game of musical bed and bear continued fluidly. One day, the uncle told G that one of his friends wanted their house interior to be designed by him. Though G was wary of clients coming via the family route, the work is work, he met uncle's friend's family with a caution. After pleasantries and ice breaking, the uncle friend poured his heart out. We had actually selected another architect. What a humiliating to tell. We had actually selected another architect. We were going ahead with him, but then I saw your house. It was very funny that he was saying a rented house, that was an ordinary flat. Which one? I hardly had done any. G was feeling disoriented. The office that you live in was the answer. That rented ramshackle place, it is just for 11 months. Not even my design. What did you see in it? The client said, it's your bedroom that I saw. That has inspired him actually. What? G was disoriented and lost. It made me the uncle is telling. It made me the uncle's friend is telling, sorry. It made me nostalgic about my happy bachelor days. Sorry, my place is messy. G was disoriented, lost and also embarrassed now actually. So he thought like the messy house has, reminded of his bachelorhood days and maybe he's nostalgic about it. G thought like that. No. Those cobwebs remind me from the ceiling from my house when I was young, clarified the uncle's nostalgic friend and now G's client. Nobody has seen anybody getting nostalgic about the cobwebs in the house. And now the uncle's friend is ready to give him a project based on, looking at the cobwebs of the house, not even aesthetics of the house. This is how clients land up in any manner. Next day, when the G broke the news, I teased him. Spiders trapping clients now for an architect? Another first for you. I used to keep teasing him that, you got a client like that, you did first one like that. This is the first time a spider's cobwebs are bringing client to some architect. Who's going to be one big architect someday? G didn't sleep that afternoon, for still he could not connect the dots. Lost in thought, he lay in bed, looking at the ceiling, full of cobwebs. And he's also spinning in his head, and they are also spinning in their own work. That evening, I poked him a bit deeper. I understand your uncle brought his friend home, but how did his eyes meet the ceiling in your bedroom? It hit him straight in his soft spot. You enter somebody's house as a guest, but you don't look at the ceiling always. That was the question. I just poked him actually. How did your uncle's friend saw the ceiling actually? Then G put his G logic and said, and also questioned, you think he also slept in my bed? That is where the suspense actually comes out. So when you have a office and bed in the same place, your intern might sleep, your D might sleep,
Your client.
client might sleep, no, the architect might sleep, uncle might sleep, and maybe future client might sleep. That is how he ended up with the client there actually. And these are all real incidents, and I was really a witness to that. Actually, I tell you, I actually slept in that bed also. It is not a fiction. Thanks a lot for hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.